Good evening, and welcome to the program Talk with Tashi, a program dedicated to young people, adolescents, and adults. Discuss your issues and solutions with Tashi. And now, here is your host, Tashi.
Welcome to another Talk with Tashi. Always a pleasure to see you. And today we have another special guest with us. And today we're talking about parents in denial. Our guest today is Mrs. Shellyon Hope. Shellyon Hope is a mathematics educator. She's employed to one of those public secondary schools in St. Catherine. She holds a Bachelor of Education in Mathematics Education and a master's degree in educational measurement. She is a firm believer that every child can learn. So if you are a parent in denial, or you know a parent who is in denial, you don't want to miss this conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome, Mrs. Patterson Hope. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining this Talk with Tashi.
Thank you for having me. I'm good. Thank you.
Wonderful. I wanted to begin by telling our audience just a little bit about the work that you do and the type of students that you would have. Mostly male, teenagers, female, what are their predispositions and so on. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, as you said earlier, I am employed to a public secondary school, and it is basically one of those inclusive environment schools where we have mainly boys, like 75% of our population are boys, and many of those students are or has disabilities, some visible and some not so visible.
And their special needs.
Yes. Now, as an mathematics educator, I am employed as a mathematics specialist at the school, and so I am basically a support person to the school administration and the mathematics teachers. So through assessment and helping to plan for these students, we try to improve their academic performance.
Okay, great. That sounds good. So we're talking about parents in denial. I want you to give us a working definition. What do we mean when we say that parents are in denial?
All right, so parents in denial is really parents who basically fail to acknowledge that their child has a disability or has a challenge, right? And this denial is it's very common. It's a common response to such a diagnosis. Nobody wants to hear that their child has a disability, or their child is challenged. And so usually when persons are informed that their child has a disability, they tend to, first of all, go in denial. And this stems really from just fear. Mainly it's fear of the unknown, fear of basically the stigma that is attached to disability. Persons fear that their child will be ridiculed, or the fear of the struggles that the child may face, and so it is easier to fail to acknowledge, or deny that the child actually has a disability.
Wow, and that's very helpful information when you speak about the fear of the unknown and the stigma attached why parents come to be in denial. Could you give us some examples of these challenges that you've seen with children, and you inform the parents, and what are some of the manifestations of this denial? What are some of the things that they say, and how do they react?
All right, so usually when they get this diagnosis, many of them, what they do is they tend to start blaming the diagnosis on other things or even other persons. So they may say, it's because of the child's parents, the spouse, why the child behaves like that, or it's the child is just lazy, or it's a family trait or something. They find some excuse, right? And they will refuse a special education, for the child. They, like I said before, they make excuses for the child's behavior and the setbacks of the child. Yeah, basically that's it.
Okay, great. So what are some of the disabilities that you would have come across? Like intellectual disabilities, dyslexia, just a few of the disabilities you've seen.
All right, so you will see, like I said, intellectual disabilities. You may see like autism, ADHD. You may see dysgraphia, dyscalculia, things like that. And there may be even physical disabilities like hearing impairments, visual impairments, and such.
How are the children affected? How are they impacted when the parents are brought into the picture? They are informed that we have these concerns. We are seeing these, manifestations of a possible disability, and you need to get your child assessed. And they say, no, not my child. He's just lazy. He needs to work harder. Or, you're not talking about my child at all. How does this response from the parent impact on the student?
Right. So parents' denial can be detrimental to students because because the students are denied the special education, you find that, of course, their performance academically will be affected. The students themselves will be frustrated because they do not understand what is happening to them. Why is it that they are not performing as well as their peers are? So they are going to be frustrated, and you might find that they start even getting anger issues. They may start harming themselves, harming others, and the behavioral problems will begin. The coping mechanisms that the child would have learned if they had been given special education, they would have failed to learn those. So they are frustrated.
Wow. What about the parents? Are they themselves impacted by their own denial?
Of course they are,
And
because like I said, because these students did not learn coping mechanisms, or they're not privy to such. You find that these students are going to be dependent on these parents for a very long time, maybe forever, right? And the parents themselves become frustrated, right? And
so it becomes a cycle almost of frustration, anger, parent denying that there are some special needs maybe.
Definitely.
And then because the child's needs are not being met, the child is acting out, the parent is acting out, and they're just in a cycle.
Right.
How can we reach these parents? What are some practical ways that these parents can get some help? What would you say to parents like that?
But firstly, one of the things that cause many persons to be in denial is sometimes the way professionals explain these diagnoses to them. Most times there are some negative connotations used, some negative terms. And so the parents feel as if there is no hope for their child. And that's one thing that drives them into denial, right? So as educational professionals, we can assist by providing support to these parents, explaining to them, giving them hope, partnering with them to assist with the child, keeping them up to date with what is happening at school with the child, and how the child is progressing and so on. We can also have little support groups with these parents because there are quite a few of them in my school in particular. And so we can have little support groups with these parents so that they can help to support each other, calling persons who probably would have gone through the system and, show them what resulted from their child's being able to access special education.
I want to press into the parent support group a little bit more. You say that it exists at your institution. Is it one big parent group? Is there a limit to it? What if there's a parent listening who would like to be a part of a group, but is probably not connected in that way? But let's say they want to start a parent support group. Are you able to give any information as to, what's the recommended number of parents that should be there for it to be effective? How should they, who should they choose? And how should they go about what are some of the things that happen in a parent support group?
All right, so there is not one presently at my school. I'm just suggesting that that could be, yes, it could be effective if parents have that support, just to understand that whatever they're going through, they're not the only person going through it, and persons can share different ways and strategies that help them or have helped them.
Okay. So, all right. So I suppose that persons then would have to kind of think about and process how they would go about doing forming that parent support group. Yeah. I am a part of a parent support group, and one of the things, one of the things that is very beneficial, there is a monthly training that is organized for all the parents to attend, with a psychologist, and he speaks to us about different things concerning, child development and children and so on. So at least we look forward to that. And in between training sessions, we have once a month prayer meetings as well. And outside of that, persons are really just free to share their challenges and their joys within that space that we are all a part of. And, others offer their own experience and things that they can do and so on. So I know that it can be quite beneficial. Right? So we're talking about how we can practically help these parents. And you spoke about a parent support group. Is there anything that you would say you spoke to the educators already. Is there anything that you could say to the church, or even what if you were sitting in a room with government officials who say to you, anything you want done, we are prepared to back you with the finances and everything to help our parents who are in denial about their own, situation concerning their children?
Yeah. What do you think? I'm sorry. Right. There are, so my recommendation basically, if it is that a parent chooses not to put their child through special education, the inclusive classroom usually works, right? But I don't think it's very effective in Jamaica as it is because of lacking of resources. And so if I was supposed to be sitting in a room with a government official, that would be one of the things that I would be lobbying for. The resources that are necessary for these students with disability, because many times there are many accommodations that these students can benefit from, but they're just not available. And so the teachers are in the room with them. They are frustrated. The teachers are frustrated. The other students are being frustrated as well because there's not, the accommodations are not provided for the students. And so the resources are what are needed.
Okay, great. Do you have any idea of what are one or two of those resources?
Right, so for example, students who may suffer from visual impairment and plugs and so on, for students who may not be able to function well around noise and so on, technological resources, to those who may have problems writing, reading assistance, because many of these, that within itself is a problem, because of course we are lacking in that area. So reading assistance, and things like that I can't think of right now.
All right, no problem. I'm just gonna ask you to do me one favor to list the things you just spoke about because you were going in and out due to the internet.
Okay.
So some of it didn't come through clearly.
I was saying tablets and computers, earring plugs, the availability of printers and so on, where you can
Okay.
print, do big prints for students who has vision impairment.
Right. Okay.
Or as in assistant teachers, because many of these teachers are not able to function in the classroom with the classroom sizes in an inclusive classroom. They can't split their time efficiently between the child with disability and the rest of the class, and so they need assistance.
Okay. Great. Final question. Do you believe that children whose parents are in denial about their disability and so on, can they still be helped even if their parents are in disbelief?
Through the inclusive classroom system, they can be helped. They
Oh,
can be helped. So because you don't need the parents' permission to use an inclusive classroom system to assist them.
so what about the schools that don't have an inclusive classroom? They're just going to get lost in the system.
No, but they can implement it.
Oh, the teacher would have to do that.
The teacher will have to implement an inclusive classroom system where she caters to all the students. Because in an inclusive classroom, all students, whether they have a disability or not, are catered. So when you're planning your lesson, you actually take these students into consideration. So if you need to do some big prints beforehand, if you need to put some earplugs on your desk for this person when it's time for working, because many of these students are complaining that talking around, they can't hear. They can't, because of the noise, they are not able to focus, right? So if you have these things at hand, you can actually plan your lessons, so that you have effective lessons.
All right. So the inclusive classroom is what educators call the differentiated classroom. So it's more taking the approach of differentiated instruction.
Right. So differentiation would be included in your classroom.
Oh, all right. Got you. All right. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words that you would want to say before we end our conversation? It has been quite rich.
For parents who are experiencing who has a child with disability, do not lose hope. Like I said, I believe that every child can learn. I mean, the strategies may be different, but the child can learn. You just need to believe, basically, and seek help, right? So do not just sit around and deny that something is wrong, and allow the child to go through the education system and come out the way they went in. Seek help, because a lot of places are in Jamaica that can actually help you, what can provide information for whatever disability your child has. But if you don't know, you're just going to sit around not knowing. So seek help.
All right. Thank you so much to you, Mrs. Shelley-Ann Hope, mathematics educator, mathematics specialist, for sharing from some of your experiences concerning parents who are in denial. And as we go out of this conversation, I just want to add my own voice to say to parents that your children need your support. They do better when they know that they have the support of their parents, and whatever help you can get, if you don't even know where to begin, you can begin by speaking with the teacher or the guidance counselor within the institution where your child is a student, and get started from there. But the information exists and the resources, though few, they can be accessed, and your child will be better off for that. Thank you so much for joining this talk with Tashi. And until next time, we will continue to inspire hope and to be all that we can be as the Lord enables us. See you next week on another talk with Tashi.
Thanks for tuning in. Do join us next week, same time and on this platform when you can talk with Tashi. Until next time, do have a safe, blessed and productive week.